Well, hello. Thank you for joining us for the Thursday show. I'm Pastor Chelsea with our online ministries, and today I have two very special guests with me, Dave and Rebecca Bumpus. Dave and Rebecca are missionaries in Valencia, Spain, and you've been there for how long now?
I've been there 29 years.
29 years for you and
5 for me.
5 for you. And they're joining us today because they have deep roots with Colonial Woods. We're one of the partnerships that they have that helps send them out as missionaries. So I thought it would be a great day to have a conversation with them, hear an update on the mission field, and also see what that means for us in our everyday lives. So you guys, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here with us. And also kind of a cool thing, you guys have been watchers of the Thursday show over the past year.
Yes, over in Spain, we watch you.
Oh, that's so fun. I'm sure they're huge fans, as you all are.
Yes.
But we're glad that we get to interview you while you're here on, is it called a sabbatical when you're a missionary in your home?
We call it HMA, Home Ministry Assignment. It's also been called furlough before.
Okay. It sounds very like secret agent-like.
Yeah, HMA.
Well, we're glad that you're here with us. So I have just a few questions for you guys as missionaries. My first question is, how did God call you specifically, and I think your stories are different, to missions?
Yes. Well, I was 13 years old in a Pontiac Bible Church in Illinois, and every year they had great missions conferences. And after one missionary had spoken, he gave an invitation to anybody who was wanting to say to God, I'm willing to do anything you ever ask me to do, or I'm willing to go anywhere you might ask me to go. And it was from then on that the Lord just started turning my heart towards missions, and specifically Spanish-speaking countries.
Oh, that's awesome. And for you, Dave, you kind of came to the party a little bit later.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Was it like by absorption, by getting married, you kind of jumped into the mission field too?
Yeah, I had did some motorcycle ministry for probably 5 years. And then so Rebecca and I got together and got married, and yes, I was absorbed by
but into motorcycle ministry in Spain, which I had no clue was even a field. I didn't ever see motorcyclists or the big bikes. And then when we started connecting over Skype and those kind of things, I started to notice Harley Davidsons and the big bikes, and so there's a big ministry over there.
Well, I know you shared on, when this airs, it'll be a couple weeks back, but you talked about on Sunday just the tremendous ministry that's happened through motorcycles, specifically during COVID. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we were involved with the motorcycle ministry. Specifically, the Tribe of Judah is the motorcycle ministry that we're a part of, and they originated in Houston. And so we were doing things with the clubs.
We had, pre-COVID, we had been going to the clubs and getting to know members over there. And this last May, we had a bike blessing. We had scheduled it for 2020, and because of COVID, it got shut down. But this May, we had it. And we had 81 motorcycles.
Wow.
And 130 bikers show up.
That's amazing.
It was amazing, yes.
And the neat thing was, the biker clubs themselves were not allowed to meet in their own clubhouses, so they hadn't had contact like that for like a year and a half. And so it was just an open door. They were so excited and grateful to us for organizing this. And because of churches having special, I don't know what to call it, privileges, I guess, in meeting, as long as they met requirements, we were able to get permission from the police, the mayor of the town where we did it in, and they were super excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Such a cool opportunity, and not one that you would necessarily think of at first when you think of ministry, but such a huge need.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your connection to Colonial Woods. Rebecca, I know you did an internship with us years back, which kind of probably started the relationship. But how does Colonial Woods as a church support you on the mission field, whether it's financially, prayerfully, or in other ways?
Okay, well, in all of those ways. Back in 1990, when I came here to do my internship, Stanley D was in charge of missions, and he oversaw my ministry. And it was basically, I was going out into the community, getting to know people through hospital visitation, going to the YMCA, participating in activities there, starting a small Bible study, and various things. And then Colonial Woods, they decided to support me on a monthly level, and they've been doing that for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so every 2 years I have been coming back to share with the church, small groups, Sunday school classes, what's going on in Spain. So also I send out, and now we send out, a prayer letter to all of the people who are interested in what's going on over in Spain, so that they can pray effectively for us, for those doors to open, which only happens through prayer.
And I love what you mentioned there as you talked about your internship at Colonial Woods, because it's a common misconception that missions happens once you get to the mission field.
Right.
That people would think, oh, okay, you became a missionary once you got to Valencia, Spain.
Right.
But in
That's
reality,
not
you
true.
were being a missionary here in Port Huron, even as an intern, by intentionally plugging into community that's already existing and in the area, and then allowing Jesus to just use you to be a light. So my question for you then would be, how would, if you're speaking to, you know, the church member who's watching, the mom with kids, or the single person, or the guy at work, or whoever it might be, how can they be missionaries in their mission field that they're already in?
Right, that is exactly it. God has called us to go and make disciples, but people think that means go away from where you live. And it means as you are going through life, make disciples. And so it means using the connection you have through your kids, with other moms, with other families, your hobbies, your talents, connecting with those people, because you already have the platform to build on. They see you living life, living your walk with the Lord. And so, yes, it's going on. Even if Dave and I came back to the States, no matter where we live, we would continue doing the same things. And so it's basically just saying, God, open my eyes to the people you're calling to yourself, and help me know whether I'm to plant seeds, or whether I'm to water the seed that's already there, or maybe I'm even coming in and I'll be the one to harvest. So yes, it's going on all around us.
And I would say also that, like I'm thinking of the bike ministry, you know, you already have the vocabulary. You already have the knowledge of being a single mom, or the type of Harley you ride, or the type of life you walk. You already know how to share your ideas with others, and so you just add okay, this is what I do for the Lord. And they're watching whether we know it or not.
Well, that's a great point too, because often missionaries go through a season of training to understand the culture that they're going to be immersed in, and wherever you are, you already perfectly understand the culture that you've been immersed in. And so I love when you said open your eyes to the opportunities around you, because I feel like that's the key, is suddenly coming awake to realizing, wow, God's planted me in exactly the job I'm in, neighborhood I'm in, community I'm in, to be right here, right now, and to be a light to the people around me. So I love that. Tell me, what is the hardest thing about missions?
I think I'll let Dave say that one.
I would say, at least for me, the not knowing the culture. You know, I know the biker culture, and so that's similar no matter where you go. But the culture itself, each culture is different. Like, I know, for example, when I first went to Spain, I stayed at a Spaniard's house. And as an American, it's 10 o'clock, you get to the house, and they're going to, you know, most Americans would say, this is your room, we'll see you in the morning for breakfast. But there, they threw out couple 6-foot tables, put a ton of food, and there was 20 people at 10 o'clock, and we didn't go to bed till 2 a.m. So just, you need to know the culture that you're going into.
And the language is another obstacle or difficult thing about going into another culture. Even if it's English and you're going to another country, it's going to be slightly different, and there's an adjustment there. And for me now, language is not an issue, the culture is not the issue, but still the most difficult thing for me is the waiting. The time it takes to either plant the seed, cultivate it, water it, it can be years, and we tend to be impatient. And it's hard to wait on that, but that's building character in us and dependency and trust in the Lord and realizing that we don't do it really. It is truly God who brings the growth and brings the harvest. So,
opens doors.
Yeah, so the waiting for me is the hardest for me, but that's anywhere.
All right, so we talked about what's the hardest thing about missions. Well, what are some of the greatest joys that you've gotten as being missionaries?
Oh, well, of course, it's to see someone truly understand what God has done for them. When the light goes on and they take that leap of faith and they're excited. And my favorite part of this whole process of sharing the gospel and leading someone to walk with the Lord are the first few years of their walk. I love the initial discipleship and watching their eyes light up and them to get excited about it. It's thrilling.
I think in my youngness in Spanish, I think sometimes I find joy in, where did that word come from? God just puts a word in my mind that I'm sure I've heard, but in a conversation with one of the Spaniards, it just flows like I'm old school Spanish speaker. So yeah, that's pretty fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it is just fun to watch the miracles, the doors that you could have never organized to open, and you see God is doing it. It's the miraculous that we all love to watch happen.
Well, I love all the stories that you guys have been sharing of just what God is doing through you in Valencia, Spain, and I love the thought that that isn't limited to any part of the world, for those who are joining us today, God can use you wherever He's placed you in miraculous ways as well. So if we open our eyes to see how God can use us and see the culture He's placed us in, there's miraculous things waiting on the other side of it. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. If people want to follow your story, is there a way they can get a newsletter or follow you somewhere?
Yes, look us up on Facebook, either Rebecca Bumpus or David Bumpus. And we would be glad to get you on an email, prayer letter. We also send out videos to explain specifically, and we'd be glad to communicate with anybody.
They can also find us on World Partners Missionaries.
That's true.
Okay. I'll get a link from you guys and I'll put it in the description for the show so people can find ways to follow your story, your journey, and stay connected. And thank you guys, and I hope today's episode really challenged you to be a missionary in whatever field God has placed you in. I hope you join us next week. I'm excited. Next week we're going to be talking about what it really means to be a Christian, breaking down that definition. So I hope you'll join us then. But until then, I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next Thursday.